Hello, Dr. Celli. I'm Andrew Zapata,
And I'm Anthony K.
and this is our final video presentation for ILCS 1169. And here are the sources that we're going to use for our project. First, the Decameron by Giovanni Boccaccio. Next is The Essential Petrarch, written by Peter Hainsworth. And last is Mandragola, the play written by Niccolò Machiavelli. Renaissance literature first appeared way back in 14th century Italy, which had been sparked by the general Renaissance movement that began in the 13th century. Some of the most talented and influential writers during that time were Giovanni Boccaccio, Francesco Petrarch, and Niccolò Machiavelli. Each of them helped spread the Renaissance throughout all of Europe with their brilliant works. These writers have been covered thoroughly throughout this course, and while they each have their own individual writing styles and ways of telling stories, they all describe love as the most important and controlling thing in a person's life. They essentially argue that nothing can overcome the power of true love.
The first writer, and how they write about how powerful love is, who we will talk about, is Giovanni Boccaccio. In Boccaccio's The Decameron, which is one of his most notable works, and in the collection of novellas, many of the tales are centered around this theme of love. Each story about love is unique in its own way. For example, some of the stories involve erotic love, while others involve tragic love. One example of a tale about love is the 10th tale on the first day. This story tells a tale about an elderly man named Alberto, who turns the tables on a lady who tried to make him feel shameful for loving her. Despite Alberto's old age, which was around 70, his heart was so noble that he was no averse to welcoming the flames of love. Just based on this description, the reader can see how loving and lustful Boccaccio's character is, even though he is at an age at which the character even says sexual desires are typically not as strong. While Alberto catches the eye of a beautiful widow, Boccaccio writes he was mightily attracted to the lady, and no differently than if he had been in the prime of his youth. He felt those flames so keenly in his mature old breast that he had never seemed able to sleep at night, unless in the course of the day he had seen the fair lady's fine and delectable features. Making this character an old man suggests that Boccaccio sees love and attraction as an important aspect of a person's entire life. From someone's youth until their old age, love is something that can spark an intense and unmatched feeling. Boccaccio makes it apparent that love is incredibly powerful and can even make an old person feel young and excited, almost as if the feeling of love is giving that person a new life. Another example of when Boccaccio uses love as a central theme is in the first tale on the fourth day. In this tale, Tancredi, Prince of Salerno and father of Gismonda, murders his daughter's lover, Giscardo. Then he sends her his heart in a golden cup, which causes Gismonda to kill herself. When Gismonda tells her father how she feels about Giscardo, she says, "It is true that I love Giscardo, and that I love him still. I shall continue to love him until I die. And if people love each other beyond the grave, I shall never cease to love him." The description about the power of love is similar to the previous story, which is that it lasts a person's whole life. In fact, Boccaccio takes it even further and says that love can never end, even after death. And her last words before dying were, "Oh, heart that I love so dearly, now that I have fully discharged my duties towards you, all that remains to be done is to bring my soul and unite with yours." Her love for Giscardo was so strong that she ended her own promising young life just to have a chance to be with him in the afterlife. Boccaccio is suggesting that love without life is not worth living, thus love is the most important thing that somebody can have.
Now, the next writer that we'll talk about is Francesco Petrarch, and similar to Boccaccio, he often writes about the love and the incredible dominance that it can have over somebody. And this semester we studied and read The Essential Petrarch, which is comprised of some of Petrarch's most famous works. And one of the works featured in this book is Petrarch's Canzoniere, which is a collection of poems with the central theme of the poet's love for a woman named Laura. One specific example of how Petrarch shows how powerful love is in poem number 211. The very first line of the poem reads, "Lust spurs me on, love guides me and directs me." So in this line, Petrarch is very straightforward in describing how love impacts him. And what he's essentially saying is that he follows love. Thus, he does whatever his heart tells him to do. Now, two other lines that also exemplify how controlling love is read, "And the wretch takes it, and does not see how blind and disloyal is our guide. I entered the labyrinth, and see no escape." In these two lines, Petrarch tells the reader that a woman took his heart, and since his heart is his guide, this woman now controls him and holds all of the power. All of his power, I should say. Petrarch is now trapped because the grasp that love has is just too powerful to escape. Another example of this in the Canzoniere is in poem number 132. In this poem, Petrarch talks about how love is so confusing that it's driving him crazy and he really doesn't know what to think anymore, or how to think. The second stanza of the poem reads, "If I burn gladly, why the tears and groans? If I don't want it, what's the use complaining? O death alive, O pleasurable evil, how come you rule me if I don't consent?" So here Petrarch is suggesting that love is so powerful, sometimes it can take over a person's thoughts and emotions without them even knowing it or even wanting to be in love. In suggesting this, Petrarch is saying that the love that a person feels is more powerful than any other emotion that a person can feel. Also in this book, The Essential Petrarch, is The Triumph of Eternity. And in this, Petrarch imagines a blissful reunion with the woman that he loves, Laura, in heaven, that is untroubled and not distracted by any feelings. Now, the third to last stanza of the poem reads, "Beside a river rising in Gabena, love threw me into chaos for so long, I cannot erase the memory from my heart." What this means is that during his time on earth, Petrarch can only remember how much he loved Laura, and that he was devastated that she had rejected him, which led to his chaotic and miserable life. Now that, well, in this story, that it's just the two of them together in heaven, they can finally be together for all of eternity, which is what he's wished his whole life. And now he can finally be happy because he has love. Returned love, I should say. Since it was the unrequited love that ruined his life, it goes to show how love is needed in order to live a meaningful and happy life. And Petrarch's final work in this book that he wrote is titled A Letter to Posterity. And in this letter, he talks about how when he was young, he was overwhelmed and he struggled with a love affair. He writes, "I would have been troubled by it longer if its already cooling fires had not been extinguished by a cruel but beneficent death." So for as long as she lived, she being Laura, he would have been troubled by this because there was no way he could have stopped loving her. And the only way it could have stopped was if she died. He says that her love was cruel because this was the one person that he truly loved, and now she's gone forever. But at the same time, he says it was beneficial because she controlled him, because she controlled his heart. So his love for her essentially kept him trapped. So when she passed, he was finally free to do whatever he wanted. His emotions weren't holding him back. And once again, Petrarch is just demonstrating how the power of love is matchless. And in these works, altogether, Petrarch is claiming that true love drives a person. And since true love controls a person, it shows that it's the most powerful and most important thing that a person can have.
The third and final writer who we will discuss is Niccolo Machiavelli. In Machiavelli's Mandragola, the plot is based around a character named Calamaco who wants to sleep with the young and beautiful wife of an elderly fool. In the song after the first act, lines 1 through 4 read, "He who makes no test, love, of your great power hopes in vain, ever to bear true witness to, what might be the highest worth of heaven." This song says that heaven's greatest treasure is love because it holds a power stronger than anything else. So like Boccaccio and Petrarch, Machiavelli portrays love as the most powerful thing anyone can possess. After creating an elaborate and well thought out plan, the story ends with Callimaco sleeping with the young lady. Callimaco's love for this young lady was strong enough for him to ruin her prior relationship and selfishly disregard the feelings of her previous lover. Just like the other two writers, Machiavelli provides us with an example of that love overcomes everything and can even make someone do something that is morally wrong. This establishes that love is ultimately unconquerable.
So, these writers' styles of writing and their genres of writing have changed literature forever, and many other artists and authors began to follow them in their footsteps. And the countless examples that these writers provide about the power of love is proof that Boccaccio, Petrarch, and Machiavelli thought true love was the most important and controlling thing in somebody's life. They believed that love could bring a person either eternal happiness or it could bring a person eternal sadness. So it could steer someone down a path of pleasure or down a path of depression. So the main lesson to be learned once again from their writing is that the power of love is an almighty power.